Hello everybody. In this video tutorial, we're going to focus on the demand function, especially the expanded demand function. So in microeconomics or economics, the beginning of everything, the be and all, is demand and supply. So we're going to play a little bit of the demand function, but I want to look at it from an Excel point of view. Working within Excel to generate a demand function and solve for changes in whatever, look at elasticities, etc., etc. So let's get going. I assume that you are familiar with demand, the law of demand, movement on the curve, movement off the curve, etc., etc. So I assume you're familiar with that, and I also assume that you have some understanding of Excel. So first thing that we have to do when we work in the demand function is to generate our variables, those factors that influences quantity demand and demand. So we want to specify our demand function. So first thing first, let's identify those factors that influence our demand function. So remember, we have our quantity demand. So our quantity demand for product X, okay, whatever product X is. We can define product X as bread or cool drink or haircuts or whatever the case might be. Things that you and I consume on a daily basis. Okay, so that is our quantity demand. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. That's our quantity demand. Okay. Quantity demand is a physical amount of those goods or services that we purchase, that we consume. Okay, so that's quantity demand. So the quantity demand of product X is influenced by, or there's a whole lot of factors that influences it. The first obvious one is its own price. So the price of X. Okay, so let's write this out first of all. It's the quantity demand for product X. And we're going to give it abbreviation, quantity demand of X. Okay, whatever X, as I said, X is. And by product could be a physical item or it could be a service. So I don't make a distinction between the two. Product I define as either a physical good that I buy or a service that I buy. And then its own price of product X, give it the abbreviation, own product of X, price of X. So that's our typical basic demand function and law of demand. If the price of an item increase, the own price of that product increase, the quantity demand of that product will decrease. 99% of the case that's true. There may be exceptions to the rule, but in this case we work with the rule. Okay, so that's our basic law of demand. If the price of that item increase or that good increase, the quantity demand of that item will decrease. Okay, so that's also what we call a movement on the curve, not off the curve, on the curve. Remember the demand curve is downward sloping. We'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, what other factors? So this is the only variable that causes a movement on the curve. Everything else causes a movement off the curve. So that's quite important. So let's look at all those factors that influence demand, not quantity demand. This is influencing quantity demand. All the other factors influences demand movement off the curves. So it's the price of a substitute. Okay, substitute is what you can. The classic example of a substitute is chicken and beef. Price of beef increase, you rather buy chicken, and vice versa. So the price of a substitute, So the price of a substitute. Now there might be more than one substitute. So let's call it price of substitute for product 1 and the price of substitute for product 2. So let's assume there's only 2 substitutes of this specific product, whatever that product may be. And then obviously it's the price of complements, price of a complement. And there could also be 2 of them. So price of a complement 1, price of a complement 2. Now, where substitute is a replacement, okay, complement goes with it. Typically coffee and sugar, fish and chips, salt and vinegar, whatever the product is, it most probably have a lot of complements, steak and chips. So substitutes is what you can replace with, chicken and beef, Coke and juice, chocolate and chips, whatever the case might be, complement goes with it. So own price, price of substitutes, price of complements. In this case, we assume 2 substitutes and 2 complements. There could be much more, né? There could be much more. There could be 100 substitutes, could be 50 complements. Who knows? Then, so those are the prices. So it's own price, and then prices of complements, prices of substitutes. Another obviously important demand factor is income. Okay, so let's do income as I. Okay, income. So as income increases, you'll buy most probably more of certain goods, less of other goods, indifferent to some goods. Like if my income increases, you're not going to buy all of a sudden more bread. You may buy more Coke, you may buy more holidays, but you're not going to buy more bread because you can only eat so much bread. You actually might buy less chicken and buy more beef, for example. So income could be good for that product, could be indifferent to that product, could be bad for the product. Who knows? Okay, income. Then we have taste. Tastes. Let's do that T. Let's do preferences. Preferences, spelling. Taste, preferences. Population. Marketing. Marketing. Seasons. To name but a few. And then let's say all the others is our residual or our error term. Normally our error term is a little E. Preferences, let's make it P. Population, make it, what shall we make population? Marketing is M. Seasons is S. Let's make preferences a R, and let's make population a P, abbreviation. Because you don't want to write these things in your function. You want to do the abbreviation. So there's my abbreviation. So these are all the factors that I think influences quantity demand and demand. There may be more, there may be less. Some of this may have no influence, some of them have a lot of influence. There could be things that we're missing, etc., etc. But let's assume this is it. So how many factors are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 factors. And then obviously we have this residual, which means all the other things that we haven't included. So all these things together must add up to 100%. Okay. So if these only add up to 70%, then our residual is 30%. So our residual, this value here, is all those things that we haven't included. Whether they're observable, whether they're unobservable, who knows? But these are what's missing. Because the impact of all these things, the effect of it must be 100% on this. Okay, so once we've got our variables, okay, so these are variables, this observable real world things. Okay, these are things that we can observe in real world. Some of them are easily calculated or estimated. Some are difficult, like preferences. So the price of these items, that's easy to estimate. You can just go and look at it. They're there. Income, we know. Taste, but preferences, that's a little bit more tricky. So some of them are easy to conceptualize or to estimate. Some of them are a little bit more difficult. But these are all observable phenomena that we can include. Okay, so once we've got our variables, the next step is to look at the sign. The sign. Now, what is the sign? Okay, what does the sign? The sign is either minus or, okay, sorry, it's either a minus. Come on. So either a minus or a positive. Okay, so this is a sign. I spelled that correct? I don't know. Sign. Sorry. There we go. Sign. I was looking at that and thought, shit, but that doesn't look correct. So that's the sign. So sign is either minus or positive. Now, what is the purpose of the sign? The sign gives you the nature of the relationship. It gives you the nature of the relationship. Okay. Now, what does that mean? It indicates whether you have a positive relationship or negative/inverse relationship. So it indicates the sign, or the nature of the sign indicates the nature of the relationship. Meaning if it's negative, it means that. If it's a minus sign, it means that. If the variable increases, quantity demand will decrease, and vice versa. Positive, they move in the same direction. So we know that the price of the own price has a negative relationship, has a minus sign. So as the price of the item increases, the quantity demand of that item will decrease. The price of a substitute. So if the price of a substitute increase, quantity demand of that item will decrease and demand for your item will increase. So that's a positive relationship. That is a positive relationship. Then price of a complement is a negative relationship. Price of a complement is a negative relationship. So if the price of vinegar increase, for example, you'll buy less chips. Okay, because if the price of vinegar increase and they are fish and let's face fish and chips. If the price of chips increase, potatoes increase, then the quantity demand for potatoes will decrease, and if the quantity demand for potatoes decrease, then demand for fish will decrease because they are complement. Okay, so they are negative. Income. Now this is interesting. It can be either positive or negative. Either positive or negative, depending whether it is a normal good, inferior good, luxury good. Okay, so normal good, we will expect if income increase, of inferior good, for example, if income increase, you'll buy less of it. Normal good, buy more of it. Luxury good, buy more of it. So could be either plus or a minus. Taste is typically a positive. If my taste for it increase, I'll buy more. Demand for that will be. Preferences, same. Same. Population, same. Marketing, same. Seasons, depending on how you define it, but typically it will also be positive, and the residual is everything else. So a season could be positive or negative. Let me put it this way. Could be positive or negative. So for example, ice cream, if you define summer as seasons, then it's positive. If you define winter as seasons, then it's negative. So it all depends how you define seasons. You can define seasons by looking at temperature, for example, then it's positive. If you define it by winter, then it's negative. So for example, seasons, if it's temperatures and you have ice cream, then it's positive. If it's temperature and it's coffee, then it's negative. So it all depends on the product that you are dealing with. It could be therefore either positive or it could be negative or inverse. Marketing is fairly straightforward. The more I market, the more money spent on marketing, most probably the more the demand is. Population, more people, most probably more of those goods will be demanded. Preferences, if I have a preference for X and I'm selling X, so this actually could also be positive or negative. If I have a preference for this, my demand will increase. If I don't have a preference for it, my demand will decrease. Taste, most probably the same, etc., etc. If I wake up that morning and I've got a taste for something, I'll buy more of it. If I don't have a taste, I'll buy less of it, for example. Income, etc. So these are the signs that I'm interested. Obviously, the error is also going to be plus or minus. The error term will also be plus or minus depending on those things that I haven't included in my function. Okay, so the next thing that we have to look at is the parameter or the coefficient. The coefficient. That gives the size of the relationship. Size of the relationship. Size. That indicates the size of the relationship. Okay. So let's give a coefficient. Normally, the coefficient here is symbol. Let's put symbols there. Normally that's a beta symbol. Where is it now? Let's do, where's the beta? I don't want to waste time now looking for flippin' symbols here. Normally it's a beta one. Let's just use that one for now. Okay, so normally it's a beta signal, price of substitutes. Let's do that. Price of substitutes. Insert, let's just put in any. Let's just do that one there. Okay, I'm just gonna do this one there. And you can do any of them. It doesn't have to be specific ones. Insert, close, price of complements. Let's do that one there. Price of a complement. Let's do that one there. Nope, it's the wrong one. Let's do that one there. Close. Come on, close. And then income. Let's do. What shall we use for income? Let's do this one for income. Tastes. Let's do. Which one shall we use for tastes? Which one shall we use for tastes? So that one for taste. Preferences. Which one should we use for preferences? Let's do that for preferences. Population. Let's do this one for population. Marketing. Let's use that one for marketing. And then seasons. Let's use that one for seasons. And then residual error term is normally that little E. I just saw it now. That one error term. And I just need to find out where's beta. I like to have the right ones. But I also don't want to spend too much time looking for it. it's normally in the beginning once, you know, when you're looking for something, you can't find it. There we go. And there's alpha as well. I want to just add alpha there as well while I'm there. So there's beta and alpha. I'm going to just take alpha and I'm going to make it here. And I'm going to say that's a constant. Okay, so although this is not a variable, in our function we're going to include it because that means there's always a demand. Right, we'll get to this. So there's my variables that I've identified. Okay, so sorry, I need to make it bigger. So that becomes, that is the equal one, and that is equal. So that's what we're going to calculate, and we normally put that as y. So let's see if I can get y now. Our variable is normally depicted by a y. Let's use that one. See if there's another one there that we can use. Nope. Let's use, okay, y. Close. Okay, so there's my y. So this is my variable. Variable description. This is my variable abbreviation. This is the sign of the variable, and this is the coefficient of the variable. Obviously, these are what we call unknown parameters. We have to go and estimate them. Okay, the constant normally we would assume is positive. You're not going to have a negative demand for something, meaning you'll actually give it away. You can't give it away if you don't have it. Anyway, but the constant is not a variable per se, but we normally include it. In fact, I must actually include it in front of the residual. So let me just do that. And paste it in there. Residual, that's normally an A. Let's the constant. I'm going to do a C here. Constant. There we go. There we've got everything. Okay, so let me just, so let me just save before I lose everything. Demand. I'm just quickly gonna go and save it under my 214. Come on, 214, 214. Demand in Excel. Okay, so I've just saved it. So I've identified my variables. Let's just make this bold. So I've identified my variables. Okay, I said constant and residual are not a variable, but we include it in our function. Our variables are these. Okay, these are the abbreviations of these variables. These are the signs, the hypothetical signs, and I say this is normally the rule, but that's important to understand is the sign is separate to the coefficient. Okay, not in the interpretation, but not in the calculation. So when we calculate, it's -5. When we interpret, it's minus, which is the nature of the relationship, and 5, which is the size of the relationship. Okay, so that's important. Now, these are what we call coefficients or unknown parameters. Those are things that we have to estimate. So this is what we're going to calculate. Okay, obviously we want to calculate the quantity demand for product X, which is Y. These are the coefficients that we're going to estimate. So we're going to put in what is beta, what is this, and then we're going to calculate Y based on the nature of the relationship. So what we now need to go do is the next one, which is the value of the coefficients. The value of the coefficients. Okay, what is the value of the coefficient? Now, as I said, at this stage, we're going to just thumb suck them. Okay, obviously that is what we're going to have to estimate. Okay, so that's going to be our equal sign. Okay, that's going to be our equal. This is what we're going to have to estimate. Okay, not the residual. We don't estimate the residual per se, but these are the values that we're going to estimate. So what is our basic equation? Okay, so our equation is, well, let's put our function down first. I'm just going to merge these cells. So we're going to go insert, and I'm just going to go right click, format cells, and we're going to go alignment, and we're going to say merge the cells. So I'm going to say here, the quantity demand for X is equal, it's a function of price X, comma, price substitute 1, comma, price substitute 2, comma, price complement 1, comma, price complement 2, comma, income, comma, taste, comma, preferences, comma, population, comma, marketing, comma, seasons. So that is my demand function. So let's quickly put it in there. Okay, let's do it this way. No, let's rather, okay, so let's do it for now like this. So there's my demand function. Okay, my quantity demand function of X is equal to the price of X, of includes, so that is a function of the price of X, the price of substitute 1, price of substitute 2, price of complement 1, price of complement 2, income, taste, preferences, population, marketing, and seasons. So there is my demand function. Okay, so which is basically all of this. Now, next is to go and so this is merge here. The next is to put our signs in our nature of the relationship. So we're going to say, or to specify our equation with our sign and our coefficients. So we're going to say quantity demand of X is equal to, let's make a space there, is equal to, and now we're going to go, is equal to the constant. Is equal to the constant, the constant minus, okay, minus and beta. So actually what I want to do, okay, let's do it the long ways. Minus beta, price of X, then plus that sign, price of substitute 1, plus that sign, price of substitute 2, minus that sign, price of complement 1, minus complement 2. I'm going to check now if everything takes a little bit long, but price of complement 2. Then we're going to say it's normal good, so it's price, so it's plus income. So the sign is plus income. Then we're going to assume its taste is positive. Okay, ice cream, for example. So we're going to have it, and we're going to have a taste for ice cream, and it is T. And we're going to have preferences, let's say minus. We're going to have a minus preference. Okay, we're not going to like this item. We don't have a particular preference for that. And preferences are. if I'm correct. Then population is positive. Population is positive. We're going to just cross-check now that we're correct. What I wanted to do is make them in separate columns, but let's do that. We're going to do that now. And that sign is population. And then say marketing obviously is positive. Is that sign, which is M. And then seasons, let's also say it's positive for seasons. It's positive for seasons. It's positive for seasons. And that's S. We've got a constant and then it's plus our error term. Plus our error term, I say that could be negative. We just assume it's a positive, but it could be negative. And we make it bold. Okay, so let's have a look. So that's my function, just listing all the variables. And then we go into our from our function, we go into equation, meaning we conceptualize each variable in terms of its sign and its coefficient. So alpha is now included here. We don't include it in the function, but we include it in the equation, which is a constant, meaning if everything is 0, there's going to be what is the demand. If price of X is 0, if price of etc. If that's all 0, what will be the demand? That demand will be alpha. Then we've got beta minus beta own product. We've got plus whatever that sign is. Substitute 1 plus that sign plus substitute 2. Okay. Then we've got minus that sign, complement, price of complement 1, minus that sign, price of complement 2. Then we've got plus that sign and income, plus that sign and taste, minus that sign and preferences, etc., etc. And at the end, we have the error term, which is everything else. Just make sure there was it. For the spacing is sorted. Make sure the spacing is sorted. Good. And there's my equation. Let's put it in red. There's my equation. Okay, so there's my variables. Description of the variables. Remember, those are not variables, but we include it in our equation. This is the abbreviation of the variables. This is the nature of the relationship or the sign. This is the coefficient of the relationship. And this is unknown. We need to estimate these parameters. We're going to estimate these parameters, not this one. That one is everything else. So when we have the actual demand and we have the model demand, the difference between the two will be our error term. So this is unknown. Let's leave it there. It's an unknown. We don't know what it is. Therefore, we now can calculate the quantity demand. If we know what own product is, so let's for argument's sake say own product is 5 Rand. Own product is 5 Rand. Okay. Let's say the price of a substitute is 3 Rand and 10 Rand. Let's say the price of a complement is 8 Rand and 4 Rand. Let's say income is 100. Let's say taste. I've got a strong taste for it. Let's say it's 5. Okay, so we can measure taste. 0, Likert scale. So we ask people, what's your taste for it? 1 means you have no taste. 2, you have a little bit taste. 3 is you're neutral. 4 is you've got taste for it. 5 is you've got lots of taste for it. So we've defined taste and the Likert scale, and we've asked people the taste for that. We do the same for preferences, and we say the preference. I've got a very, very strong dislike for it. Asparagus, olive, mine is 9. Population is, let's say, we're gonna let's say there's 50 people, and then so we have to put in our marketing value now. This unknown parameter, we said that marketing is positive, so let's give it a value of 12. And then season, let's say we said it's also going to be a positive. So this value, let's say is 2. And then our constant, let's say, is 50. Okay, so these are now values that we just populate in there. Where do I get it? Thumbsuck. Absolutely thumbsuck. In reality, there's different ways to estimate these unknown parameters or these coefficients. For now, we're just putting them down. So we're saying the price of product X is 5 Rand, the price of a substitute is 3 Rand, the price of a second substitute is 10 Rand, the price of the complement is 8 Rand, price of the second complement is 4 Rand, the income of this person is 100 Rand. The taste is 5, 9, 50, etc., etc. So again, where do these numbers come? They're all thumbsuck. So what we now need to do is we need to put them in this equation. We need to put it in this equation. Okay, so first thing that I want to do now is going to put in the modified coefficient. So let's say it's modified coefficient, which means that it's the coefficient and its sign. Okay, so it's a coefficient and its sign. So I'm going to use equal. Well, let's say, so that becomes minus 5. Come on. It becomes minus 5. Okay, so I'm adding it because remember, in the interpretation, it's separate, but in the calculation, it's combined. In the equation, it's combined. So minus 5. Okay. So that becomes plus 3. That becomes 10. That becomes 8. Minus 8. Minus 8. Minus 4. Plus 100. We said that is positive 5. And preferences we said is negative. Am I right? Negative. Preference we said is negative. There it is. So it is minus 9. And then they all are positive. So that becomes 50, 12, 2, and 50. I said this is what we're going to estimate. So that's the modified parameter. Okay, so let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 negative coefficients and 1 positive coefficient. So that makes sense. That seems logic. Okay, so now we're almost ready to do this. Okay, so we have estimated the values of this. What we don't know is the actual coefficients, the size of the beta values. So these are the estimates for the prices, okay? But we don't know the estimates of these values. So this is the price of PX, this is the price of the value of PS, etc. So these are the values, or the values of the variables. So it should be variables. Should be variables. Okay, modified variables, values of the variables. Okay, what we now still need to do is the value of the coefficient. Coefficients. Okay, so meaning those values, the beta, and this and this and this, and so these values. That will be, that's normally also derived. That's normally also derived. Okay, so let's, what would be these values? So we make them 0, 0.5, 0, 0.3, 0, 0.8, 2, 0, 7. Income 0,01, or yeah, 0,01. Taste is let's say 2 again. Preferences is 3. Population is 0,005. Marketing is 0, let's make it 3. Seasons is 0,8, and the constant is value. Okay, so now we've got all our information. So we've got the signs of each of these variables. We've got our coefficients. We've estimated a value for our coefficient. Okay, so this will be 1. Okay, and we have the value of the variables, and then obviously it's the modified variables, which is the signs attached to it. Okay, so now we can calculate it. Now we can calculate our y. So let's go y. So that is quantity demand for product X equals product that, and the value of that is equal to, and it's going to be that value times that value plus 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 this value times that value plus, and multiplied by that plus that multiplied by that value plus that value times that value plus this value times that value plus this value times that value plus this value times that value plus, and then the coefficient equal. The demand for that product is, given all these things, is 76,805. 76,805. That seems a lot, huh? That seems a lot. E3 times G3 plus. I'm not sure my formula is right. I don't have a double. There we go. There's a problem here. There's a problem there. E10 plus E11. 11, that must be a multiply. Plus E12, 12, plus E13, 13, 14. 27,000, 27, yeah, 27. 27 units. Yeah, that made a huge difference. Huh? I wanted to say that number seemed highly unlikely. Didn't make any sense to me. So yeah, so there we've got the correct number. So let's round it off. Define. So let's round it off format cells. And we're going to say number, and we're going to round it off to 27. So that's cool, né? That's very, very cool. So now obviously we can, yeah, so 27 is the demand, the quantity demand for product X, given these variables, given the relationship, given the value of the coefficients, given the value of the variables. So our quantity demand in this instance is 27. Now I can change the value of, I can change the signs, and I can change the coefficients, I can change the variables, and I can change the modified variables, meaning the modified variables is just the change. So if this is something that I enjoy, I don't hate it, so I'm just going to change that to a positive, then my demand will be 81. So if I dislike the product, then the quantity demand will be 27. If I like the product, then the demand will be 81. So it shows you the big difference that preferences, for example, make. You can see if the income changes, etc. So there's our basic demand function. There's our demand equation. When we conceptualize this demand equation by adding the coefficients and adding the value of the variables, then we can actually calculate the quantity demand. In this case, the quantity demand is 27. Now, this opens a whole lot of options for us to play around, and we'll do that in the next video tutorial, where we're actually going to do a little bit of exercises on it, play around with it. Okay, so for now, let's park there for this particular tutorial. And when we come back, we're going to continue with this and play around a little bit with scenarios. And say, if this happens, that happens, this happens, that happens. Calculate elasticity, see if we can generate graphs, and so forth and so forth. So let's park it for there. Let's stop now, and then we will continue. So with that said, I'll see you on the other side.